Man.
Yeah, we are live.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Zero Chill. This is Creative Kalasha. My name is Mushira Kashenge, and today we are having a wonderful guest, an award-winning filmmaker and a screenplay writer, Joan Rispa. You must have heard this name before. So, Joan Rispa is an award-winning filmmaker. She has had her first film, Detox, which won award, and especially all the films she has made before have won awards. So I'm going to have her here on the show for the next 1 hour or so, and we get to learn about her secret to getting established in the film industry, and especially making a foothold so quickly. What we would say that's not a common phenomenon. So karibu sana Rispa to Zero Cheers. We are really glad to have you on board today and to learn more about what you're doing in the film industry and the dynamics that have been going on and how in future, now that we have under crisis brought about by the pandemic, we will be managing. So karibu sana this one.
If you're a friend to Zero Chills, then you've been seeing my name Kochini as a commenter, and now today I'm being interviewed. So
Wow.
that's cool, Pia.
So Rispa, we are happy to have you around. Maybe I've introduced you as an award-winning winning filmmaker. Maybe you can tell us more a bit about yourself.
Okay, cool. I like to define myself as a life enthusiast, meaning that I really enjoy life in every way possible. That means I like having fun and I like being in the moment. Film is part of what I do in my life, and unfortunately or fortunately enough, I'm good at it, and that's why I've been able to get a little bit of a footing in the film industry, and I'm grateful for that. But more to that, I just love good food and sleeping and conversations with people. So that's Rispa in a nutshell. I don't know if that's creative. So on the creative side, on the creative side, I make films and just stories. Yani, I think I'm just a good storyteller.
I'm glad to hear that. Being a conversationalist, and you're here, so I think that we are reading from the same page. So now, Rispa, would you like to take us maybe through the process of creating Detox, the first film, which won you a Kalasha award? What was it like? About the process of coming up with the idea and what it takes, beyond the conventionalities of I'm qualified, I can script a film. What did they take you, to believe in yourself in the creative process of that film, especially?
I don't know if someone is ever like fully 100% ready or like you're never like but now today I'm going to make an award-winning script. That's not how it happens. Okay, at least not for me. So for Detox, I remember at the time I was an intern with Lightbox Africa, and I just wanted to do a little bit more. And as an intern, you get to experience a lot of things. So my mentors at the time, they wanted me to select a field. Do I want to be an editor, an assistant director? Where do I feel I'm more comfortable with? And honestly, I had never thought about my life in film like that. So I had to go start from the very basics. And I thought, well, why not just start with script writing, then go facing every point of a movie so that I can know as a filmmaker what identity I want to take. So that is how Detox was born. I remember when I wrote my first draft and I gave it to one of my mentors from Lightbox. Aliniambia, we, madam, rudi shule. So he referred me to another website and he's like, just go and check out this place. Alafu, maybe you can get a better footing of what script writing is all about. It's not as simple as you want to make it look. It's not, you still haven't grasped the elements of story making. And so I
Yeah.
was like, okay. That was a very, how would I say, ilinikanyagia chini sana. I felt like, okay, maybe it's time to give up. I should try something else. But my desk mate at the time, Brian Monete, he went ahead and just said, Apana, this story can work. Just let's rework the whole thing because I see the idea. Just let's rework it. And that's how Detox was born.
Wow, what I think of it, most of the times we look at the finished product, yeah, and
Yeah.
hardly do we really bother to investigate. Like you're telling me, you can't rewrite and rewrite, and at some point you thought, it's not even worth my while anymore. So like you can give up on it. And by the time you are getting it out here to the public and to some of us, it means that you are noticed. So what do you think like takes somebody in the film industry, like from the nascent stages to get noticed?
Um, to get noticed, I don't know, because if you ask me, I'd say I'm still not noticed enough.
No, I disagree. I disagree.
Like I usually feel like in my circle of friends and their friends maybe, then they know who I am. But I don't know. Of course, that's something that I'm struggling with, the imposter syndrome. But also, um, I don't know if as a creative you're working with a mentality to get noticed. I feel like you're working more to get your stories out there than you are to getting noticed. Because if you're constantly thinking about getting noticed, then you will find yourself easily going with waves of what is popular, and you'll not give out the right product that yani you're not giving out your story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of you just do it, give it your best, and then whatever you receive back, whatever reviews, whatever awards, then that is what we take to God. So, like, would you tell us the yardstick that you use to determine that this creative output is worth taking out there, or it's worth my name as Rispa? Even though he's saying we are not writing based on the things that are going out there or trying to get noticed. Obviously, there is the yardstick. Yeah, there is the criteria you use to determine that well, this creative output is actually worth my while. How is that for you?
Okay, so let me just take you through like my process, right? It's not like a process
Yeah,
per
sure.
se. It has worked for me this far. So when we made Detox, it was an everyday story in for an everyday person who's been through campus. They can
Yeah.
relate to the characters in that movie. They can say, I actually know such a guy. This guy is actually my friend. Because I remember at the time I made it, a group of my friends said, this guy, he's our neighbor. And I was like, oh, shit. I hadn't realized the resemblance to the character, to this person in real life, even though they were my friend.
Mhm.
So for most of my stories, the way I look at them and the way I even, because I'm very critical about the way I write my scripts, is are these characters that I can hear their voices? Are these characters who I can meet in the streets and have a conversation with? Yani, are these people who I know and feel? And that for me has worked in terms of now, even the audience when they watch, they are
Mhm.
seeing by the way nishaikuwa na demsumbua kama huyu ama ninajua fala fulani anafanyanga vitu kama Daud ama yani they can see how close these characters are to their world. Now with that with that um, how do I call it?
Relatability and
True.
verisimilitude.
Yes, with that
Uh-huh.
relatability
Mhm.
inasaidianga sana to give you the extra push, or at least for me inanisaidianga kunipatia the extra push, and I'll be like, hey
Yeah.
guys, like these stories, so I think even in the next one probably I just want to stick to the same kind of convention that has been working for me. And now for me to put it out to the international markets, it's only because I just want to see are other people taking up the stories as
Mhm.
well as my primary audience.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
basically, it's like you've answered my next question because I was about to ask now, when you're writing a script, how do you write a script which is audience based? But now I feel you gauge it based on how relatable that is for you. And
Yeah.
you've written others, other you know other films. The Numb and Listen, which addresses PPD, that is postpartum depression, and the plight of the deaf people. And from what I read as a critic, is that both of them are a minority group. So I'm just wondering what draws you to address themes, or rather to mainstream themes that are based on minority groups of people.
I am very big on storytelling, like I've said, and I like using my voice. Now, my voice, the way I've come to realize is I think the one thing I want to be remembered for is for amplifying the voice of people who
Mhm.
were not in a position to air their grievances, uh, or rather, if they did, they weren't listened to. So you come in and say the same things that they're saying, but in an amplified manner.
Yeah.
I am passionate about it. I love inclusivity. I do not picture as if I don't know kama ulikuwa kindergarten the same area as me, but I'm about to reveal my age. We used to sing a
Uh-huh.
song that used to go something like creating a little heaven down here for everyone. So
Yeah.
I mean, with that in mind, I think that's a guiding principle for me, and I love just the fact that with the small thing that I have, there's a idea to me today. That's what I
Yeah.
like.
So basically, it's not like you decide now I'm going to research on a particular field which has not been mainstreamed, and I can use my voice to do that. So it's something that just comes to you, and you decide, let me use my voice here. Let me do good here. Let me like use my position to amplify the voices of the downtrodden. It's something that comes to chance or by chance to you.
Yeah, I'd say something like, for example, Numb came to me totally by chance. It wasn't like something I was actively thinking of looking
Uh-huh.
for. It's an idea that just fell in my lap, if that's even allowed. You know, though you have a shower thoughts, light bulb moment, that kind of thing. I was like,
Uh-huh.
yeah, okay, depression is becoming a thing, postpartum depression is a thing. So I did a
Uh-huh.
little bit of research and I thought, why can't I do something around this?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is a story that I think needs to be told, and well, I just told it.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but for listen, I remember I was a bit more intentional with that one.
Yeah.
I am a very vocal person,
Uh,
so at some point, I remember um, I had an experience that wasn't so great for me, and
mhm.
I felt like, wait, is that audio feedback from my end, or whose end? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you cool. I can hear you.
Okay, so I'm saying at the time I was doing listen, it was very intentional because I had found myself in a position where I felt like my voice was caged because
Yeah.
I was saying things, but I did not like the impact that the way people misconstrued my words. Nilikuwa na feel like I'm talking, but I'm talking to a wall.
Mhm.
So, out of frustration, therefore, I was just like, okay, cool. So I wasn't able to do much about this. But
Yeah.
then, if that's me, and I'm a very vocal person, and I wasn't able to react to things in a way that I felt was impactful, then
Yeah.
what do people who kabisa are
Mhm.
hearing impaired? What do they go through trying to echo their day-to-day grievances? So
Yeah.
I was more intentional with listen, and I went and met a beautiful community of people called FEDWEN Kenya, the Federation of Deaf Women in Kenya, and they were gracious enough to just allow me to listen in to their story.
Wow. That's an interesting thing. And I also want to think that there is a lot of work that needs to be done within that niche, amplifying the voice of the minority. Because it's only you who could understand both worlds, who came up with the ideal of telling us what happens, the plight of the deaf people. Do you think there is a particular thing that needs to be done um, in relation to, amplifying or mainstreaming the plight of the minority groups? Do you think there is something that filmmakers particularly ought to do?
Um, I'll say first of all, if you're passionate about it, please go ahead and do it. Don't think about because most times when people do philanthropic works in film, they usually lean in towards where they are getting money, NGOs.
Uh,
If you're doing it for the money, then unfortunately you'll give us the same kind of content that, no offense, Al Jazeera, CNN, and BBC usually give in terms of
yeah.
depicting Africa as a
Mhm.
very dilapidated place. If you're doing
Yeah.
it for the money, you'll find yourself always looking for a story that is worship that people can give money. But if you're telling a story of resilience and a story of greatness, that
Mhm.
makes people now question the
Yeah.
fact that yeah, these people are people who are living with disability and they are actually doing the most out of it. It challenges even us who are normal or able-bodied per se to
Sure.
now think better and be more conscious of if these people are doing this, then how can I help? That's a challenge in itself. But if you're doing it for the money, me, I'll just say, in my opinion, just stop it.
So there are different motivations, and they might inspire different creative output of the same subject.
Yes.
Now let's take one question. Johnny Dark asks, where then do you draw the line between what is popular and what you need to do? I guess that's in relation to choosing what you need to write.
I'd say it in what Ngogi Wathiongo says. Ngogi actually, even in his recent speech, the one that was so highly popular or famous,
Acclaimed.
he did it in Kikuyu.
Sure.
Ngogi says, when you're thinking about a story, think about your primary audience. And don't think about what is popular or what you think will be a hit. Because like a time like now last year, Gengetone was highly popular. Right now, I don't know if the same still stands. If you do something that is authentic, yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. If you do something that is true to you as a creative, I want to say that in some way it will become a timeless piece because you already know that it speaks your truth. So I think that's where you draw the line, and I don't know if that answers the question.
I guess it does. He will tell us. Now, Rispa, I know contextually speaking, I'm not even trying to, talk lowly of your achievement. They are great, and contextually speaking, you are accomplished. That's what I would say. Although you will contest that, I know. So how do you make a foothold in the film industry? From when you feel I'm passionate about this thing, because you told us, go to where you feel you're passionate about it, just do it. You feel that you want to write it, just do it. Now with that, how do you make a foothold in the film industry? Of course, I know there is competition and many demands, but how do you just do that?
Okay, cool. So again, I'll say be authentic. Be very authentic to yourself. The story that you're telling, make sure it's your story. As in, usijaribu kuwa kama mtu mwingine.
Yeah.
Be unique, be yourself. That's the one thing I'll start with. Be yourself. Kisha from there, my advice has always been share your work with as many people as possible. They will criticize, they will hate, they will love, they will do anything with it. But at the end of the day, you put your work out there, you see that people react. It gives you a building block for next time, such that if people found it a bit too dialogue heavy, next time then you already know the concentration span for people is, let's say, 5. So it makes you reevaluate yourself based on, because you're making these works of art for the audience at the end of the day. You don't always be the kind of person who justifies your work. Audience wakikwambia, ama a person comes later and they're like, hey manze, I didn't feel this part, oh, I think you should have done this. Don't always be quick to defend and just be like, Kapana, you don't understand, you're running these challenges on set, You, nyamazia, take in all the responses that you get from your people. Then from there, also share your work not only within not only within local markets, but also with the international markets.
Yeah.
Because you get to know, I think the beauty of sharing creative works is you get to gauge for my field audiences and how they react to different situations. For example, we did a film called Ngebega, and there's a place where a father thinks that his daughter has been raped, so he goes and gets into a physical altercation with the perpetrator. In some markets, they were like, oh, you should have done this. And in other markets, they were like, you should have done this. I think just for me, always being in the room when the audience is watching, always unifurahisha sana, because I'm always seeing the different perceptions, the way you can't box up the audience into one thing, into one category or one box. So share your work with people, just share it.
When you're sharing your work with people out there, one of the benefits you've mentioned is that you get diverse reviews, diverse criticism, and feedback on where to improve and where not to, and you always have a stand. So, Rispa, tell us basically, what does it take? Creating a film, I believe, although we see the final output, it's a teamwork. It takes a teamwork, a team to complete that. There is you who is scripting, there are critics, there are people who are shooting. How is the whole collaboration process?
It takes a team, like you said. It takes a whole village. Now, I'll speak in my authority as a director.
Yeah.
Um, for my first film, Detox, I remember the biggest mistake I made then was that I felt like the weight of the world was on me. So I wanted to micromanage as a leader, and
Mhm.
I wanted to have to call the shots. Basically, it sounds cool when somebody says, "Hey, she was calling the shots," but
Uh-huh.
I wanted to be the one who is like authorizing every single element and micromanaging to the last grain. What I
Mhm.
didn't know then was it will take away some beauty of the process. So my advice is, if you're going to go into filmmaking, and especially in directing, always have your vision, but don't let that vision be set in stone. The only thing that was set in stone was the Ten Commandments. So kutoka hapo, just be
Uh-huh.
flexible enough
Yeah.
to allow your crew and your cast to give you creative input. You don't have to take it, but listen, be
Yeah.
open-minded. That's a thing. You can't be a creative if you're not open-minded. Their input may add of something of value, ama it may make you rethink something
Yeah.
because you're human at the end of the day. So you
Sure.
need we are a, we are a product of all the people around us, and people keep pouring in and keep pouring out. That's the beauty of humanity.
So basically, it's being open-minded and welcome to whatever other people have to say in the whole process.
Yes, it's more of a collaboration. Actually, filmmaking is more of a collaboration. That's what I'll say.
Great. I saw recently, I was reading through the news, and Netflix is coming to Africa in a massive way, in the sense that they are taking or they are looking for content that is created in Africa, maybe in African languages. But I think they are here already in Kenya. What do you think will be the impact of um, Netflix coming to collaborate with filmmakers in your industry?
I think it's beautiful. Uh, we run we run a risk of people misconstruing what African content should be, or but we also have now the authority to script and tell our own story. Be like, you guys thought that this was the image of Africa that you would be expecting.
Yeah.
Uh, Now this is our story. But I hope that we're not too brainwashed as
Uh-huh.
creatives, and that the content we put out there is aiming to be like Hollywood, because we
Mhm.
cannot be like Hollywood. We can only be who we are. We are Kenyans. So Kenyan stories.
So you think we can only be as the greatest leap is that we will have our stories told in our own point of view.
Yes, that's the biggest takeaway.
That's a great one. And what I look at it, as a critic, I keep coming back to that is that basically we'll have these guys distributing our creative output in their platforms which they have created and which have very large audiences, of course. And I also guess that is a benefit to it. Do you think there are other implications to us collaborating with them or to having our product go through their mainstreamed platforms? I do think also, are we missing on something here? Is there something that we should do particularly to also have our own creative output distributed from our own, platforms that we're saying, our own point of view, our own platforms, and we have the competition on a level?
Um, I don't know about our own platforms. Well,
Uh-huh.
that's a whole other field. But the way I look at it is, we do not need to, what do I have to say? Like, Netflix is a big advantage in terms of it already
Mhm.
has its own ad audience, which is like
Sure.
huge and worldwide. So if you get the opportunity, why not? Why not? But if you're
So
gonna
you
be like, oh,
on the
now
line.
let's put it on our own platforms, and if it's sure, that's for the tech world to decide. But
Mhm.
also, I don't know, just me. I'll always say this: stick true to your path. Because for me, the way I look at it is, it's an opportunity for us to now, as creatives, have
Yeah.
no longer limited to a physical audience, kama cinema kitambo, that people had to
Mhm.
go to a theater cinema and watch the movies. If you're getting the chance to watch Kenyan movies on Netflix, then it means there's a higher chance of us competing at a global scale, because audiences who go into that now get to watch and they're like, okay, this is cool. No, okay, not my type,
Great. Previously, and I know you know about these developments, there has been always an existential question of what's clean content and what's not clean content. Obviously, all you've produced so far qualifies, passes master by far, and by all conventions is very clean content. But what do you think about that debate of what's, creative is boundless and it's also borderless? So what do you think about the question of clean content and not so clean content?
Yeah, I'll go back to who I am as a person. I always create content that I am comfortable with and what is true to me. So really, my moral scale is guided by what I know is true to me. I will not ever try to be a one hit sensation or actually now I want to nataka kushika wasee yani niwashike. So now I'll go and do this do this extremely critical things. That's not me. Me, stories that entertain me and what entertains me is what I show you guys. Definitely you guys like it, so
So basically, it's all a question of what appeals to you as a person. That's where your creative, productivity springs from.
That's exactly it.
That's great. So, which means you are very safe by all standards. You are unlikely to cross or ruffle feathers. Also, I've been meaning to ask this, and I know you understand the dynamics in the film industry and the things that have been happening nowadays, and the audience also has been changing rapidly with the other factors of globalization and whatnot, and particularly on the question of identity. We are speaking to an audience which identifies herself, if I may use that, as particularly distinct from what we have always known to be conventional. And what we are seeing nowadays is a mainstreaming of what we've always thought of, what has been set at the fringes, what has been, if I may say, somewhat unacceptable to us Africans. And I would like to bring up the issue of LGBTQ. That is one of the ways that films and literally products are using to mainstream that community of the minority. What do you think will become of, writing scripts that appeals to this new audience, new globalized audience, and the more liberated one from the convention?
I keep going back to this point because that's all I know.
I know you don't want to escape from that point, which is
No. It's because honestly, create something that is true to you.
true to you.
Yes, I am not in a position to say that do this or do that in terms of whether it's right for an African filmmaker or not right for an African filmmaker. That is not for me to say. That is not even for what I know for me and what has worked for me is the stories I tell are the stories that I interact with on a daily basis. So now, it's basically a reflection of what surrounds me. Stay true to yourself is the one thing that I'll keep on repeating because that's all I know. I'm true to myself, and in terms of looking for topical or thematic issues, I've never really had to think about this is the theme of my next film. It's just basically how people talk and relate to each other. I told you I'm big on conversations, and I told you I try as much as possible to be true to myself. So then, whatever version of myself I am at right now is what I'll create. Whatever version of myself I will be in 20 years, who knows? So, as a filmmaker, just do you. Imagine that.
So, and I think it's an easy and wonderful thing when you just do you. And what I'm picking from you is that you are not carried away by the contemporariness or the evolution of the society. That's not taking anything away from your creative output.
No. That's not exactly it because think about it. The way I create, when you compare the movie, for example, Detox and my latest movie, Name, they are different. You see the growth, not only in terms of technicality, but even in terms of storytelling.
Yeah.
I as I grow, I take my audience along with the journey. So someone who saw my first film and someone who's seeing my current film will see the
Mhm.
growth in the journey. It's just that I grow at the pace I'm most comfortable with. I am
Yeah.
not big at it. Whoa, everybody's going to this direction, so we all need to direct our focus to this current theme.
Mhm.
So also creating films about Corona right now, I don't feel the pressure to start creating films about Corona right now. That's not me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, should I also suggest, rather, that you do not have a definite audience, that your audience come with a particular product that you have created?
Yeah, definitely. That's one thing. You can never really box your audience and say, this is
Uh-huh.
my audience authoritatively, because the beauty of the current age we are at is that people are exposed to a lot of things.
Uh-huh.
Um, and also, as they grow, some people will fall out, you'll get more people jumping into your bandwagon. So it's a journey, and really, that's the only way you can look at it. You
Yeah.
cannot really box yourself and say this is authoritatively my audience. It's a
Uh-huh.
bit impossible.
So it's on the go.
Yeah, I mean, if you really trust the product that you've had, share it
Uh-huh.
with anyone and everyone who cares to watch it. So your audience then becomes the person you've shared with your
Mhm.
material at that particular point.
I think you have self-actualized in your career, so you no longer care about basically what the world is all about. So it's all what you create, which is a great thing and admirable. Rispa, there's somebody like me, I would say, who is looking at you as an accomplished screenwriter and film director, and is wondering, so where do I begin? How do I get myself to the next step? You might not have a formula, but you have some hacks. You can say, now this is what you do to be a screenwriter worth his or her salt.
Okay, cool. Um, Today it's interesting. Before the interview, I just saw a post on Facebook in its bare friend, and they say you cannot do you can do something with a bad script. You can correct it, but you
Yeah.
cannot do anything with a blank page. So if you are waiting for the right moment, Aki, it will never come. I'd rather you market your bad script, get
Uh-huh.
telling you, hey, hii script ni mbaya. Then from there, you now have to rethink and go, okay. So people
Mhm.
said, hii script ni mbaya, mbona walisema ni mbaya. Now you
Yeah.
have to look at this is what probably works. I think now this is where I need to change. You can alter, even if it takes you some 2 years, some 3 years, just to add the
Mhm.
feel. At least make sure you're writing and you're sharing your content. Usikue wale watu wa, hey, walinibia idea. That's impossible because there's no
Uh-huh.
new idea under the sun. So it's your perspective, it's your voice, and that's why it's really important to be authentic, right?
Yeah.
So your input on the same that has been said over and over again. So
Mhm.
now, when they tell you that umeandika script mbaya, oh nini nini, go back to the drawing board, look at it, revise it with fresh eyes. I remember when I started again, I was
Mhm.
very chained to the idea of this script is my baby, and therefore I am the only one with the moral authority to talk about it because it is mine.
Uh-huh.
But then you come to realize that really these people who are trying to tell you this and this, in as much as um, their
Come.
opinions may or may not
Uh-huh.
influence you. Just try and listen to them because at the end of the day, some things will fit into your script and others will
Mhm.
not fit into your story. So it's up to
Yeah.
you to see it through. Then
Uh-huh.
now, add alafu you give a final product that is more or less more palatable.
I hear you telling me that you cannot edit a blank page, but you can edit a badly written script, but not a blank page. I think
Yeah.
that's important. Another way or a firmer way to say, just get started, if at all you have to. And well, up and coming, we're all up and coming, but so basically what you would like to tell somebody is like, just get started.
Yes, I am very big on the Nike motto. I like it because it's always like just do it. It's the
Just
simplest thing, and it's
uh-huh.
been said so many times, and it's so redundant. But honestly, ukweli, ukweli, ukweli. If someone,
Uh-huh.
if you take to someone like something empty, waambie sasa mimi nakuanga filmmaker lakini bado sijaandika ama bado sijashoot movie. Then now, what do you want them to do with that information?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So we've been talking about how creative industry has been affected, especially by the pandemic, like many other industries. How have you been feeling it yourself, like as a film creator, and this period of the pandemic?
I think the beauty of the pandemic is that it's brought an appreciation for content. In
Uh-huh.
that everybody is at home, everybody now, the only thing they can do is watch and watch a lot of content. And so that has also led to two things: saturation of terrible content and
Uh-huh.
people becoming choosy with the content that they want to consume. They will
Yeah.
not start for a terrible story. They'll be like, nah, change. And because they have many options, they can easily flip over.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, for us as Kenyan filmmakers, because on a normal day it's really hard enough,
Uh-huh.
this pandemic has come with its restrictions and limitations. But as it is, we just roll with it. We keep punching on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we say is it's created appreciation for the content, and most of us are just keeping to ourselves and getting the relief from the what has been produced before. But as a creative, there's this discussion that has been there of people in the creative industry also encouraged, to get into venture into other fields, like in terms of knowledge, call them finance or cultural creators, management, and all that. Like there is the other aspect beyond creating, because at the end of the day, you'll create, but then you create for passion, but you also create for money, and you create for financial freedom and sustenance. What would you like say this has been my lesson now, this is how it's affected me, and this is how I've learned as a creative to manage my finances and to get still maintain that kind of freedom.
I'd like you to rephrase that question.
Well, basically, what we've been told earlier is that for creatives, we have also to trust ourselves and learn other aspects like financial management while we are still in the creative industry. Because at the end of the day, what you are seeking as a creative more so is freedom and also financial freedom. As a person, as an individual who is in the film industry, who is maybe making her existence entirely out of creating, what would that major lesson be? Like, this is what I've learned about money as a creative.
Okay, money. I have always, as an individual, me become a Rispa. I have always been frugal with money. So I'm the kind of person who already knew that budgeting and investing the little you have. I started doing it way before I was even like an employee or anything. I have always just been very cautious with money, and I've always been very frugal with it.
Mhm.
I used to try and invest even before the pandemic. And so I think because of that saving culture, even when the pandemic came, I had some caution money for myself. So I do not know how to respond to that because for me, it's a personality trait whereby I'm kind of frugal with money. I'm not extravagant.
I know the reason is why I asked particular that reason is because I came across a course designed necessarily for creators and creatives on financial management. Although this is an intriguing thing because while you say financial management is a very personal thing, it's a question of yourself and how you interact with your money and all that. Yeah, it's interesting that people, out of research have found out it's necessary for creators, for creatives, for people who have out their existence from creating to also have these skills. But I hear you are ahead of us and ahead of time, and you are able to master that skill, which is an interesting thing. So your experience out there in the international audiences, Rispa, we look from where I sit, I look at you again as accomplished. in the sense that you have done quite good bit which the world, the whole globe recognizes. And we continue to do that. And I hope you continue creating. So what does it necessarily mean for you as an individual and a filmmaker to have your creative output, your films shown to international audiences rather?
I'd say it's always very cool when one of my works gets accepted into an international festival.
Uh,
Um, One of the advice I got earlier on in as a filmmaker was to try and spam as many international film festivals as possible with my works, just because it gives me a sense of what the global market is like. If
mhm,
you think about the biggest brands that you know, they look at global video. They don't compete locally, compete on a global scale. So
uh-huh,
for me, it's then to just see the appreciation of my work globally, and the fact that at the time I was making the movie, I wasn't thinking about all my posts, but it needs to go to Zimbabwe, it needs to go to I don't know, Seychelles. No, because then that would corrupt the process. Always think about
yeah,
your primary audience, but even after that, when just put your work out there, spam as many festivals as possible,
yeah,
because then when they receive a level now, you're able to watch. One of the things I do every time people are watching my movies, I'm
yeah,
always in the cinema with them just for me to see the reactions.
mhm,
And at what point are people laughing? At what point are people pulling out their phones? At what point are people deeply in thought and that kind of thing?
yeah.
It helps me now, like as a person, reevaluate my product. That's how I do my reevaluations at home.
So that's a great one. Also, may I ask, how has the reception been? Like, how has your, films being received locally? We are still growing. We are still catching up, with that level, the global level at which you have placed your standards, which is really wonderful and motivating. But then, how do you feel has been the reception locally here? We can talk about it as like pre-corona period.
Oh no, even during Corona, I am so grateful. I'm one of the like. I think this is just. I am always super grateful because my latest movie had the best receivership I've seen in all my movies. But come to think of it, my audience has always been amazing. The reception to my movies has always been amazing, and I'm so grateful that I've had the opportunity to
Mm,
just journey with most people, such that I haven't lost many people on my journey as a creative, which is cool. And I've
uh,
seen the numbers grow because I remember when we screened Detox at the time, we screened it in Uni and a couple of other places, Nairobi and
mm,
other places. The halls were dying and they
yeah,
were full. And to see the same reception years later, this is last year in December, when
yeah.
people are facing the pandemic, people are the scarcity of money and all that, and to see that you're designing cinema halls, it
Yeah.
was one of the best feelings ever. And I'm so grateful that, you know, I don't think creatives value this, but the fact that you're a filmmaker doesn't mean people have to watch your film because
Sure.
um, entertainment comes in different forms. There are people who will be like, I'm not a movie person, I'm more of a hiking person.
Uh-huh.
But so you have to think that you're competing not only just within your industry, but
Yeah.
across industries in terms of what passes for entertainment.
Sure.
And for me to see now that people are now trusting the fact that, hey, I already know that Rispa puts out cool movies, so I think I want to come with a friend because this
Uh-huh.
girl does cool things. Now it's tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. That
Uh-huh.
change, that change reaction, it grew
Mhm.
on me. So grateful.
Oh, wonderful. And I know they are watching, so they really receive your kind appreciation for that. And we hope that you keep creating more and more. So, Rispa, would you also kind of, you know, tell us your basic drive, where you draw that creativity, the mojo that keeps you moving, that you're moving to the next and the next. How do you rejuvenate your creative energies? What do you do? Even if it's very personal, you might as well tell us about it.
uh, I am a lover of life. That one I've already said. I'm a life enthusiast.
Uh-huh.
So generally, I draw creativity from everything and anything. I will sound like a mad person, but honestly, um,
Yeah.
I usually sort of hear conversations in my mind. How does this happen? If I've been in spaces where these conversations happened, then now I start doing alterations of what those conversations
Uh-huh.
could sound like. And I usually find it cool because I'm like, ah, yeah, this person said this, but if it was me, meaning kesema hivi. So already now I'm drawing up characters in my mind, and it's just kind of making its own. I don't have a tier specific thing whereby I'll go to a retreat,
Mhm.
light a candle, and do all that fancy stuff. Okay, nice
Yeah.
stuff. But this far, it's just getting out of the house and being around people. It's just super interesting talking to people. I think that's where for me get my inspiration from. I'm like, okay, I stepped out for a minute. I had this person having this conversation, and so me in my head, this is how it should have gone. So let's do a movie out of that. Yeah.
So basically, it's things just come to your mind. I think you must be very fortunate, a very fortunate creature. Just have things coming to you. Now, how do you have a line where you draw between Rispa the person and Rispa the creature, or do you just go in, immerse yourself in the whole process? I know it's a bit difficult to assume different identities, but how is it for you? Like, I'm not Rispa, I'm creating this film. It doesn't have anything to do about me, but I'm just telling of this story. Do you have a line that you draw between you, the person, and you, the creator? Does it exist?
I honestly do not know whether there's a line that exists.
Mhm.
I want to lie and say that there is, based on the fact that people who know myself say I'm very strict and I'm very stern. But at the same time, I'm usually thinking when I'm being truthful to myself. In this particular moment, this is what is demanded of me. And so at this particular moment, this is what I am feeling comfortable with expressing. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Sorry, I didn't get the last point. I think I lost you.
No, so I'm usually very. I don't think that there's a specific line that I can draw and say, no, I'm
Uh-huh.
correct. This is what I usually do. Like I have a couple of steps laid out for me. All I
Uh-huh.
know is I take the work as seriously as I would take any other job, such
Uh-huh.
that if I was a surgeon and I know that I have to scrub up and whatever, go and cut
Mhm.
someone, that
Yeah.
kind of being in the job, that kind of seriousness per se with the
Yeah.
same that I apply with my script. That's that I think because at that particular time I have to be that version of myself. I'm still being true to myself, but at the same time,
Yeah.
I create a safe space for people around me so that
Uh-huh.
they're able to come in and put things. Because remember, I draw a lot even from people on set. So yeah.
Yeah. So, like, what's your ideal environment for creating?
Is there ever an ideal? I don't know. Uh, that is
You know, there is somebody who says that for me to create, I have to create certain environment. Maybe I have to, go somewhere secluded area. I have to do this and that before I can successfully create. Do you have such a thing, or you just sit in the crowd and say, "Now I can write this script"?
Okay, so I get inspiration from my ideas from being around people, like you know, and it's not like actively choosing to be around people. It's nimepanda mat naenda tao, nilikuwa kwa butchery, such kind of things, like being in just kawaida everyday spaces, Uh, but when it comes to the writing, after I've already, like I said, I'll sound like a mad person, but I usually hear the conversations playing back. So when I'm writing, I know at that time I prefer silence. I prefer being kabisa, just me and my laptop writing. I don't want a phone call. I don't want distractions. I just enjoy writing by myself. And this far, unfortunately, I haven't been good at collaboratively writing scripts with other people. I'll take the ideas such that, for example, if it's because I have scripts that where the credits are split between myself and a friend, the idea will be from them, and we will always revise the scripts with them. But I prefer being the one to write, and I prefer being in the writing process alone. For the revision, we will be with you. We will put the edits like you like them, that makes sense and such things. But in terms of writing, I prefer being alone, and I prefer not having my phone on me at that time.
I get that now that you've mentioned it about writing the whole script, taking the center stage when you're collaborating. How is the co-writing like? How is co-writing process? How does it look like? Because I also prefer doing the match work, the whole writing, and then we can make changes as a collective. But you know very well it's their thought process that has gone through. So how is it like to co-write with somebody, to collaborate necessarily in writing process, if you've ever done that?
One of the things I learned earlier on was that when you're writing, don't be too tired. Don't think your script kama ni kama ati it is mine, the idea has superiority over you guys' ideas. So especially when you're getting into co-writing,
Uh-huh.
you have to remember that you're a creative. So that means you have to be open-minded.
Yeah.
As a result, what happened is even though I took the script and wrote, and I think that this now is my script, when I take it out there, it's no longer my script. Such that, for
Uh-huh.
example, I remember earlier on, I would have to justify why is this line there?
Uh-huh.
Why can't it be like this? What did this happen? Nowadays, just to make it easier, we even have like conversations with the person who I'm writing with, such that
Yeah.
when we have the characterization, the plot and everything, the background story for this character, we
Mhm.
already have common ground. So it is already from the onset, we've built something, apart from just laying the brick. Just that.
That's wonderful. I think it's a great thing. Sometimes as a creative, it takes a lot of courage to um, have someone else on board in the same process, and it also takes some sort of trust. Rispa, what's would you say, like your superpower when it comes to, writing screenplays and films? What do you feel like this is my greatest ability in the whole process?
In terms of writing, I prefer writing drama and comedy. Mostly, I don't know if I'm a funny person, but the world in itself has a lot
Well,
of parody
uh,
and humor. So I
mhm,
enjoy writing things that I find funny, and I like writing drama because again, the world is totally dramatic. So I don't even have to work hard for it. So those are my two genres which I'm most comfortable with.
wow. Interesting. Comedy and drama. So
Yeah.
we are almost drawing to the close of this conversation. And thank you so much for those who are joining us and those who are, commenting and asking questions. You might want to ask Rispa Joan a question before we let her go. For now, Joan, you told us that if somebody wants really to have a foothold, first thing is like you just get started. But that sounds quite abstract for me. Say, here I am, I got the idea, maybe testing the idea, and I think, wow, this is something I can go on, and I go on and write. So where do I go? Do I look for Rispa to tell me, hey, from here, scripting, this is how you get the next process or the next step? What would you like tell for a totally uninitiated film enthusiast?
If you're a film enthusiast, try and make your story as simple as possible because you're taking a chance. And
Uh,
it's amazing because here's the beauty of it. If you can work with the total basics of
yeah,
the people, the audience doesn't care that you shot with a drone, a crane, a big camera. They really don't care. They care for a good story.
uh-huh,
So now, if you, I'll speak passionately about stories because that's where I feel my strength lies. Uh,
yeah.
if you write an amazing script, then from there, just pull your thread. I think most of my films have been the work of gracious people and gracious friends who came together. The only thing I paid them at the time was labda ka lunch ama fare. So
Uh-huh.
sitakuwa na budget ati yenye nitasema, hey, you guys come, now if you limit yourself to saying that I didn't have funds, you will
Uh-huh.
never have the right amount of funds,
Mhm.
such that even when you get the funds, I mean, then you'll be thinking, oh, but these funds are not enough. Start with
Mhm.
whatever the resources that you have could be as simple as the
Yeah.
circle of things around you, could be
Uh-huh.
as simple as I don't have this. Can you help? I have a group of friends who actually do the things on the phone. So you see, it's do work with what you have. Never wait for things to be just right because they will
Mhm.
never be right.
So do not wait for the right conditions. Just get started from wherever you are.
Exactly.
I think that's quite powerful reminder of how we all need to get started. So Rispa, it's been really, really wonderful chatting with you, and that's a very enlightening conversation we've had. And I'm going to give you the rest of the 2 minutes to tell your audience. I know those who've been watching and following your work, and we also anticipate you also maybe want to tell us what we should expect from your creative kitchen. Tell us what we expect maybe, and also have a word with your audience.
Wow. I don't know what to say. I really don't know what to say. I want to say my my biggest principle in life is just do it. So simply, guys, just do it. The resources that you have around you are always enough because
Mhm.
God gives you what you can work with.
Yeah,
So start with what you have. Start small. Never be ashamed of starting small, and
yeah.
then build up from there. At least the next time you'll even have something to show. You'll be like, so at this time we had just this and we worked with it, and because
Uh-huh.
for my for my case, I remember for the film Numb, we shot it on phone and I shot
Yeah.
it with so I
Wow.
did recording.
Uh-huh.
Uh, what that made, and it made it to international screens because it screened in LA and it screened in Rwanda, right? So
Wow.
at the end of the day, what are people looking for? They're looking for the story.
Uh-huh.
They're not the technicality at your. I didn't even use an iPhone. You see,
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say is just start wherever you are. Yani, anza tu. I know I sound like a motivational speaker.
No, it's actually true what you're telling us. Uh-huh.
Nilianza na toothpick na sasa niko na butchery. Hapana, it's as realistic as use the skills that you have at the time, build
Yeah.
up on. So in the next time, if I ever decided to do this, I'd be like, guys, I've done this before. There was goodwill. So
Mhm.
now tunaendelea because clearly we were on the right path. We are onto something. That's kind of thing. I don't know. Does that make sense? Hopefully,
Wow. Wow. I don't know whether I should let you go before I ask this. How do you know you're on the right path?
you will always feel it. If you're true to yourself, you will
Uh-huh.
always feel it. It's like because for creatives, I think one of the things that I struggle with is the imposter syndrome, whereby I'm like I don't feel like I'm good enough at times.
Yeah.
But for me, one of the things I try to do is just make sure that I have done at least one thing that
Uh-huh.
contributes to adding value to who I am as a person.
Wow.
So, for
Uh-huh.
example, if I am having a terrible, terrible, terrible day,
Yeah.
I'm funk, it's
Mm-hmm.
okay. Imagine I won't be hard on myself and be like, at you,
Mm-hmm.
now this life is not meant for me. I can't do the creative path. I've
Yeah.
actually up and quit at some point
Mm-hmm.
and taken a different path. And I was like, I'm tired of filmmaking. Now let me try something else. I went,
Uh-huh.
I tried out. I think that's the beauty of life, Pia. They
Mm-hmm.
go at the rigidity at you have to. So I went and tried out a whole different a whole different field. I was an interior designer. Then I came back because
Wow.
you'll always find a way back home.
Let's come back to your
Yeah,
home.
yeah.
Thank you so much, Rispa, for making time to be here, for making time to talk to us about film production and the whole process. And I think my greatest pick is start with what you have. And don't wait for the right conditions. I think that reminder is quite timely and it was very, very useful. So thank you so much. Thank you everybody who joined the conversation. Thank you for those who asked the questions. And we shall continue the conversation with Rispa on our social media pages. And when we get fortunate enough to have her again when she has some free time for us. We will really appreciate that. So yeah, thank you so much, guys. Until next week, on Friday, same time, same place. I'll say, yeah, Megan Cheratich says, yeah, truth all over, which is a wonderful thing.
Let me give her a shout out because she's one of my biggest supporters and she's a baby to making.
Yeah.
Just that for my recent film, she was my right hand, she was my assistant director. So truly, truly, what I've said at least to have her support. Kumaanisha hakuna kitu nimewadanganya, sijachota.
Yeah, amesema truths all over, and we really appreciate that you got it right. Thank you so much, everyone. Meet next week, please. Rispa, stay with us.